Will the city be declaring a disaster?
I don't know yet. I don't think so.
What's the litmus? What's the standard for that?
Well, so you have to reach a threshold, and I'm going to get the dollar amount wrong. Corey can give that to you. It's like $3.70 per person.
Property damage-wise, you're talking
Yes.
value.
To be eligible for aid, and that's in the city. So it didn't appear at this point that we were going to come close to that. Therefore, we wouldn't need to declare a disaster. I believe the Village of Plover is, but they were hit a lot harder than we were. And the county, I believe, is considering it. They're keeping track of the damage too. That doesn't provide any relief for private citizens, though. And a lot of people are under the impression that it would. It really doesn't. That's what insurance is for, I guess. But yeah, it's unfortunate. We didn't have anything near what we had in June of 2017. Generally speaking, because we talked about this, how would you rate the damage with staff? And they said it was probably about half.
It's interesting. That's what most people are estimating.
We don't have an inventory yet of all the trees within the parks and things like that were down, but we're working on that.
Does the city have I don't know what to call it, a disaster team, an emergency team?
Yep, and we were working, almost from the get-go. I know the county activated their EOC. We had 2 representatives go down there, Joel and Chief Finn. But we were handling everything internally, I guess. Sharing the resources. Dan, the new parks director, kind of got baptism by fire, if you will. His first week was Riverfront. His third week is a big storm. But we did really well, calling in extra people and sharing the resources, heavy equipment, getting streets cleared, making things safe. I think they called back 4 firefighter paramedics. In a 48-hour period, I believe they took 62 runs. But then, streets and parks and water utility, those people were working. I don't know that we actually called anyone extra in.
Okay. What's the procedure for communicating? What's the city's procedure for communicating with the public and the media during an emergency?
We have a public information officer, and if there's something that needs to go out, we send it out through that. During the first 24 hours of the storm, things were happening so fast that by the time we posted anything, it would have been irrelevant anyway. So we really didn't do anything like that. Public service did a very good job. Most of the big concerns were people's power. And public service had their map. Unfortunately, I think their online map got hit so hard that there were some problems with it during that first 24-hour period too, but they got that cleared up. That would be the best source of information regarding power. I know Charter Cable was out for a while. Obviously, Charter is going to be the best place to call there. If there is something relating to the city, water, storm drains, trees down in the road, those sorts of things, those are handled through the city and through the communication center. I know Sheriff Lucas was getting a lot of calls too about when is my power going to be back on. The Sheriff's Department and the Communication Center has no idea and absolutely no better information than Public Service has. We get our information from them. Once things calmed down, we were able to put out statements. I think Plover was the same way. They had a statement out. I know the Sheriff's Department put the statement out about where to call and what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't.
How did the city utilize the city's radio station during the emergency?
Other than the warnings that went out, there wasn't anything that needed to go out.
Yeah, there's a time gap on both the city's website and the city's social media between the Saturday morning and I think everything started popping up again June 22nd.
Yeah.
So that's 3 days in there that nothing went on the city's website or social media pertaining to any storm information. Why is that?
I don't know that there was anything that we had to share. I know people were looking for information, but we, of course, didn't want to put out anything that was incorrect. Most of the city stuff we had taken care of. Things like power, those are best served through Wisconsin Public Service, which I hope would be logical. But you hear a variety of things from a variety of sources. We didn't want to be part of that problem. Until we had solid information on where things were going, there wasn't a need to put anything out, in my opinion.
So this has been characterized as one of those just crazy events that isn't very common.
What do you mean?
This storm that happened on Saturday. And I recall the storm event of 2015 was described the same way. All those straight line winds that knocked down trees.
You mean 17? June 7th?
No,
June of 17?
2015. There was a wind
maybe
event.
that one wasn't as significant either.
17 also.
17 was a biggie, yeah.
a pretty
That's
bad
one most people remember recently.
So we're starting to see more of these freak, uncommon type of storms with somewhat regularity in recent years. How, if at all, do you feel communication with the media and the public should change in terms of storm information?
Well, so we were talking about this a little bit too, because we have a generation now that has not known life without mobile devices. And I think people expect instant information now. And that's just not possible in some cases. I saw comments where people were like, well, all they can tell me is that my power is going to be back on tomorrow. When? People need to be patient. I can't say that, boy, you're going to have your power on at 2:17. You make sure your family's safe. You get your updates where you can. And you kind of get by. I know the sheriff's department was getting calls, emergency calls. Where can I charge my cell phone? Well, that does not constitute an emergency. Not in my book and not in most people's books. But people need to understand that you also can't it's not always possible to give real-time, accurate information. As I said, things were happening so rapidly that first 24 hours. Power was going out, trees were down. We weren't even sure that we had an accurate assessment of where all the damage was, how many people were out, where crews might be coming from for public service. They didn't know. They were deploying crews all over their service area. So to have people expect us to know when their power will be back on is unrealistic. First of all, the city doesn't have anything to do with power. That's your service provider, whoever that is. We Energy or Public Service is the provider in most of this area. I think there's a different one in Rapids. I think Rapids has their own cooperative. In that case, it would be the city. But it's not here. We don't have any better information than Public Service. So all we can say is whatever Public Service says. Hopefully by the end of the week, everybody will be back up and running. Someone was commenting that, well, Public Service said 95% of the people were going to be up before Wednesday. Well, it's Wednesday and I'm not up. What happened? Why is that? Well, maybe you're one of the 5%. Or maybe they were slightly inaccurate in their estimation. People need to be patient. Figure out how to make yourself, your family, your neighbors safe. And do what you need to do.
Do you feel there are any gaps in communications with the media during a time of emergency like this?
I don't know. I didn't see anything. Did you hear something?
Just asking if you feel like
no.
any
So
gaps
we
have
were
been
talking about
identified.
this. So we don't really have immediate media sources, right? So we have a daily newspaper that gets printed and delivered. I don't know what their subscription base is anymore, but that is the only daily delivered paper. In a situation like this, your power's out, you don't have internet either. So using online resources, I heard many people say, I don't have access to anything. My internet is down. I can't go online and see what's happening. I think I did notice that some of the radio stations weren't on our media list. So we're going to get those added. The NRG media stations in Plover weren't on the list. So in that respect, yes, people, hopefully, at least my generation, I guess, would tune to a radio, and hopefully a battery-powered radio. But online is not a reliable source, because it just if you don't have power, you don't have internet. Is there room for improvement? There's always room for improvement.
Okay, that's all I got on the storm.